Imagine a man whose beauty and charisma captivated everyone around him, yet beneath this flawless exterior lay an insatiable ambition. This is the story of Absalom, the third son of David, known for his stunning appearance but destined for tragedy. Driven by a relentless desire for power, Absalom rebelled against his father, leading to his eventual downfall. His life serves as a powerful reminder that true greatness comes from within, not from outward appearances. Absalom's tale is filled with love, betrayal, and the heavy costs of rebellion. It guides us to the importance of inner strength and integrity. Let's learn from his mistakes and grow in wisdom and faith. Imagine a man so flawless that his beauty was the talk of the town, with hair so magnificent that it weighed 2.2 kilos when cut once a year. This was Absalom, whose striking looks masked a much deeper and dramatic story filled with intrigue and heartbreak. Absalom was the son of King David, the same David who defeated Goliath. However, unlike his father, Absalom was known not for bravery or faith, but for his rebellious spirit and unquenchable ambition. As Jerusalem thrived under King David's rule, enjoying an era of prosperity and unity, dark clouds loomed over David's family. David's past mistakes, including his affair with Bathsheba and the murder of Uriah, cast a shadow over the kingdom. In this environment, Absalom grew up, witnessing both the grandeur of the kingdom and the simmering palace intrigues. He became a keen observer of power, appearance, and charisma, watching his father and his older brothers, the apparent heirs to the throne. Seeds of ambition and rebellion took root in Absalom's heart, setting the stage for a tale of love, betrayal, beauty, and tragedy. This story, filled with timeless truths, reminds us that even in times of glory, the human heart remains a battleground between virtue and unchecked desire. David was a man of contrasts, a valiant warrior and a sensitive poet, a powerful leader and a repentant sinner. Among his many sons, Absalom stood out. Born to Maacah, a princess of Geshur, he inherited his mother's exotic beauty and his father's magnetic charm. From a young age, Absalom's dark, lustrous hair and regal presence captivated all of Israel. Though not the firstborn, Absalom's older brothers Amnon and Chileab cast long shadows over his ambitions. Royal family tensions ran high as mothers vied for influence, each aiming to secure their sons' futures. Absalom, sharp-eyed and observant, learned the delicate dance of politics early on. His sister Tamar, whose beauty rivaled his own, was one of the few people he truly cared for. As Absalom matured, his popularity soared. His natural charm made him a favorite throughout Israel. Yet King David watched with both pride and concern, sensing a darker ambition in his son. Nathan's prophecy, "The sword will not depart from your house," echoed in David's mind. Was Absalom a curse or the leader Israel needed? Rumors of Absalom's beauty and ambition spread through Jerusalem. His stunning exterior masked a heart growing ever darker. Absalom's stunning appearance seemed to be a sign of divine favor, a visible symbol of God's grace upon David's household. However, this beauty fueled his vanity and amplified his immense ambitions. Convinced that he alone was fit to inherit David's throne, Absalom began to see himself as more than just another prince. His striking looks stirred jealousy and envy among his brothers, especially Amnon, the eldest. David's senior advisors also distrusted Absalom, viewing him as a prince more concerned with his appearance than with ruling. As time passed, Absalom's beauty became renowned throughout Israel and beyond. Foreign diplomats spoke of a prince whose allure rivaled that of the gods. Young women fantasized about marrying him, and young men admired him. Yet, beneath his charm and good looks, a darkness began to grow in Absalom's heart. What should have been a blessing became a prison. He longed to be valued for more than his appearance, but feared losing the influence his looks provided. Determined to prove his worth, Absalom vowed to become king, no matter the cost. This vow set him on a path toward both glory and destruction, teaching him that true beauty comes from within. The beginning of his downfall started with his brother Amnon, who harbored forbidden desires for their sister Tamar. Blinded by his lust, Amnon committed a horrific act, assaulting Tamar and robbing her of her innocence. Tamar's desperate cries echoed through the palace, but no one came to her aid. When Absalom heard what had happened, something within him shifted, marking the start of a tragic tale. Absalom's fury turned his once lively and charming eyes cold and resolute. He comforted his sister Tamar, vowing vengeance with chilling determination. For 2 years he patiently observed his brother Amnon, studying his habits and waiting for the perfect moment. King David, torn between his love for his children and the horror of Amnon's actions, remained indecisive and failed to punish Amnon properly. Finally, during a festive gathering, Absalom set his plan in motion. As the wine flowed and laughter filled the air, his servants suddenly attacked on his command. The sound of drawn swords shattered the celebration, and in moments Amnon was dead. Panic ensued as the other princes fled, fearing for their lives. Absalom mounted his mule and fled to Geshur, his mother's homeland. The news hit David like a punch to the chest. His son was dead, killed by his own brother. Nathan's prophecy was coming true in the most painful way. For Absalom, Amnon's murder was more than just vengeance. It was the first strategic move in his quest for the throne. By eliminating his biggest rival, Absalom crossed a point of no return. As he left Jerusalem, his long black hair blowing in the wind, Absalom knew his life would never be the same. He had traded the love of the people for the satisfaction of revenge. In exile, his ambition did not fade. For 3 years, he schemed and planned his return, believing it would shake Israel to its core. When he finally returned, it was without fanfare. David, caught between love and duty, struggled to respond. Absalom's story was far from over. David, overwhelmed by the grief of Amnon's death, allowed Absalom to return to Jerusalem, but kept his distance, refusing to see him for 2 years. During this time, Absalom was far from inactive. He positioned himself at the city gates every morning, intercepting those seeking justice from the king. With kind words and attentive gestures, he listened to their grievances, offered advice, and promised assistance, saying, "If only I were in charge, everyone would get the justice they deserve." Slowly but surely, Absalom won over the people. His striking looks and charm captivated them, while his promises enticed them. Behind the scenes, he built alliances with dissatisfied nobles, power-hungry priests, and ambitious soldiers. 4 years passed in this way, filled with calculated smiles, deceitful embraces, and hollow promises. Finally, Absalom approached David, requesting permission to travel to Hebron to fulfill a vow made to God. Blinded by his love for his son and a desire to mend their relationship, David granted him permission. Once in Hebron, Absalom made his move. He sent messengers across the land with a clear instruction. "When you hear the sound of the trumpet, declare Absalom king in Hebron." Years of careful plotting came to fruition as the rebellion spread rapidly. Men from all corners of Israel flocked to join Absalom, drawn by his charm, beauty, and promises of a better kingdom. In Jerusalem, the news hit David like a storm. His beloved son, Absalom, had betrayed him. As David prepared to flee the city, Absalom advanced with his rebel army, his long black hair flowing in the wind. Civil war loomed on the horizon, pitting father against son, beauty against wisdom, and ambition against loyalty. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of the kingdom. Absalom, once hailed as Israel's most handsome prince, was about to reveal his true nature. David, the seasoned warrior and king chosen by God, was torn apart. His heart longed for reconciliation, but his duty as ruler required him to face the threat to Israel's unity. With tears in his eyes, David gave his commanders a final order: "Be gentle with Absalom." Absalom, riding confidently on his mule with his flowing hair, brimmed with pride. His beauty, once his greatest asset, now filled him with dangerous arrogance. He saw himself not as a mere rebel, but as Israel's savior, destined to bring a new era of glory to the kingdom. The sound of trumpets echoed, signaling the start of the battle. The clash of swords, the cries of soldiers, and the thunder of horses reverberated through the forest. The ground shook under the weight of the war, with the trees standing as silent witnesses to the fraternal conflict. As the battle raged, Absalom charged through the chaos, his presence inspiring his followers. Even amid the dirt and blood of combat, his beauty seemed almost supernatural. Some enemies hesitated to strike him, as if attacking such beauty was a sin. But David's experience and strategy began to take its toll. His battle-hardened veterans, seasoned by years of warfare, gradually outmatched Absalom's youthful and reckless forces. Slowly, the rebellion was pushed deeper into the forest. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you think others would appreciate it too, feel free to share it. In a moment of desperation, Absalom attempted to flee. But fate, or perhaps divine intervention, had other plans. As he passed beneath a massive oak tree, his famously long hair became entangled in its low-hanging branches. His mule continued running, leaving Absalom suspended in the air, trapped by the very hair that had once been his pride and glory. There, helpless and defenseless, the once beautiful prince was discovered by Joab, David's merciless general. Ignoring the king's command to spare Absalom, Joab saw his chance. Determined to end the rebellion, Joab struck Absalom with 3 spears, piercing his heart. Word of Absalom's death spread quickly, and with their leader gone, the revolt collapsed. David emerged victorious, but it was a victory drenched in sorrow. When the news of Absalom's death reached him, David's grief echoed throughout the camp. "My son, Absalom, my son, if only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son." Absalom's body was thrown into a deep pit in the forest, and a large mound of stones was piled over him, a silent marker for the tragedy of a man whose physical beauty masked a heart consumed by ambition. Thus ended the life of Absalom, Israel's most handsome man, whose beauty became a curse and ambition his undoing. David, once the great warrior king, returned to his capital a broken man. His face, once full of life, was now etched with sorrow and regret. In the days that followed, the king's grief became the nation's sorrow. The once vibrant palace, filled with music and laughter, now echoed with quiet sobs and tense whispers. Servants moved about like shadows, afraid to disturb David's mourning. 3 days after the news broke, David finally emerged from his chambers. But there was now a steely resolve in his gaze. He gathered his advisors and began the difficult work of restoring a kingdom ravaged by civil war. As travelers passed by the mound of stones marking Absalom's grave, they reflected on the fate of the prince whose allure once captivated a nation, only to lead it to the brink of destruction. Time may heal wounds, but for David and Israel, the scars of Absalom's rebellion remained raw and painful. David, aged and weathered by trials, devoted himself to ensuring that the lessons from Absalom's downfall were never forgotten. He called his son Solomon to his side and shared his wisdom, urging him to remember that a king's true beauty lies in his heart, not his appearance. In today's world, we often see people elevated to power based on their looks or charm. Absalom's story teaches us that beauty without inner virtue is dangerous. Just as Absalom's flowing hair became his downfall, our society's obsession with image can be our trap. True beauty comes from character, wisdom, and love, not superficial appearances.